Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to CSN, College of Southern Nevada, Division of Workforce and Economic Development, as we refer to as DWET. I'm Belkis Rodriguez. I'm Director of Workforce Programs, and I want to welcome you to Sahara West, our Sahara West Workforce Specialty Campus. Today we're here to celebrate and acknowledge Mr. and Mrs. Ken Baxter, Linda, for their gracious donation to CSN Division of Workforce and Economic Development in support of workforce training initiatives. We're fortunate to be one of many recipients of the K&L Family Foundation. As a result of Ken Baxter's extraordinarily successful career as an entrepreneur, Ken and Miss Linda Baxter have generously invested in the Southern Nevada community by gifting to an array of educational efforts in this community. And for this, we're very, very honored and grateful that you're with us today to acknowledge your contribution and investment in this community. I would like to take a moment to introduce our distinguished panel, and you, in your packets, you have an agenda of today's ceremony. I'd like to introduce to you the Baxters. We have Dr. Federico Zaragoza, the President of College of Southern Nevada, Mr. Jaime Cruz, Executive Director for Workforce Connections. Additionally, I'd like to introduce our key partners to CSN Manufacturing Workforce Initiatives. We have Mr. Tristan Hayes, representing Clark County School District, Jake McClellan, who is representing LVGA, and Mr. George Hempy, who represents Vegas Chamber, also in an array of workforce initiatives in this community. Mr. and Mrs. Baxter, we want to thank you again for this generous donation and for your commitment and passion to empowering this community. And through your commitment and all your works and investment this many years in this community, you are truly enhancing the future of this community in workforce education and workforce initiatives. The donation of the Amatrol Skill Boss Manufacturing Assessment System will be essential in support of the college's efforts to be responsive to the workforce needs of one of the fastest emerging sectors in the Southern Nevada community, manufacturing. This machine will provide key infrastructure and capacity to further develop, expand, and prepare a well-trained workforce to a critical industry sector in this region. The capabilities of this machine will allow CSN Workforce and Economic Development to better serve the community that is seeking high-demand, high-wage career pathways that also lead to a higher quality of life for many residents in our community. Additionally, this machine and the capacity that it will provide to the college's ability to prepare a well-trained workforce will contribute to the success of the manufacturing sector and the numerous employers in this region. At this time, I'm honored to introduce the CSN President, Dr. Federico Zaragoza.
Much better. My wife tends to disagree with that observation, but so good afternoon, everybody. My name is Federico Zaragoza, and I am the president of the College of Southern Nevada. And I apologize in advance. I'm losing my voice. One of the results, I guess, of all this online instruction and online meetings, you just never stop talking in meetings. So for some of us, that's creating some challenges, and for others, it's creating opportunities, I guess, to be heard. So with that stated, let me again thank Belkis, and more importantly, I think Ken and Linda Baxter, your contributions are going to be game changers in this community, and I'll tell you why in a minute. I also want to acknowledge our partners that have already been mentioned, but obviously LVGA and the chambers are critical to the work that we're doing. And obviously everything we do is in line with the efforts that we have to align our workforce to economic development. And so you're going to hear a few themes in my presentation that are very close to my heart personally. And I think if you were on my hiring committee, you will remember some of the themes that I'm going to talk to you about today. And first and foremost, I always think about San Antonio, Texas, when I think about advanced manufacturing in this community. And George Hempy over there will remember some of the information I'm about to give you. But 20 years ago, actually, San Antonio was a two-industry town. It was the military and tourism. That was the vast majority of the workforce in San Antonio, Texas. Unfortunately, in the early 2000s, Kelly Air Force Base, who employed close to 20,000 local residents, shut down. So you can imagine what that meant to the city of San Antonio and to the Alamo region, much like what we felt with COVID. And when we had a single industry that dominated most of the workforce, and you see that here with tourism and hospitality in Nevada. And I remembered that when I was interviewing. I made the observation that I was part of a transformation of an economy that saw a single industry town diversify. And I had already seen indications that Southern Nevada was on a journey towards diversification. And I'll talk a little bit about what those statistics kind of look like. And it's important to note, though, that that journey that we took in San Antonio is very similar to what I'm seeing here for the College of Southern Nevada. The journey that we took in San Antonio was never a San Antonio model. It was always based on national best practices. And so the most important thing that happened in San Antonio was Toyota. Toyota Industries came into town, and that was the first time that San Antonio and the Alamo region and South Texas was exposed to advanced manufacturing. Now, I want to tell you that at that time, there was not in the Alamo Community College system state-of-the-art advanced manufacturing programs. We didn't have robotics. We didn't have mechatronics. We did not have CNC. We didn't have a system where our young people were being exposed to these great paying jobs. And there was this image that manufacturing kind of was the old kind of, and I remember this, in pictures, grease monkey kind of pictures about this manufacturing. That is not what manufacturing is. But that was the image that was in San Antonio 20 years ago. When Toyota came into the community, everything changed. For every manufacturing job that Toyota brought into the community, there were 4 additional jobs created in the community. So manufacturing has a multiplier effect. Here's the other element. Many times when you've got economic development and you bring a company, those jobs that are created typically go to those individuals that are prepared for those jobs. So if you live in the inner city, you would actually see these great companies come in, and you would see a lot of people getting hired, but it would be nobody that you would know, and it would not be anybody from your neighborhood, and there would be no bridges to those good paying jobs. And so that's where this program comes in, because manufacturing is going to provide opportunities for good paying jobs, good wages, diversification of the economy, and more importantly, I think it's going to provide opportunities for a level field for all of the community, irrespective of your zip code. And that's what this is about. This is about creating a workforce ecosystem. And that's why I'm so glad that Jaime is here, because he can talk to you about kind of the partnerships that we have. But we want to create a workforce ecosystem, not just a center, but a system by which anybody in the community can connect and get those skills that they need to connect to the Haas's of the world, these good paying jobs. And what does that mean? Haas is going to start with about 2,000 jobs, paying in excess of, I believe it's $30 an hour. Those are good family sustaining jobs. Think about the multiplier though, and then think about the next step. The fastest growing sector in Southern Nevada right now is manufacturing. And LVGA will confirm this, that of the companies that are looking to relocate in Nevada, the vast majority are manufacturing companies. That's the good news. So the challenge for us is we've got to create the pipeline, the opportunity to get those jobs. And that's going to require the kind of skill sets that are going to be developed. And I'm going to give you a hierarchy because we need to understand this. So these tools that you see here are foundational skill sets. These tools that you hear are trainers. And you're going to see more trainers in some of our back rooms. But the goal here is to be able to create a workforce that is highly skilled, and it starts with foundational skill sets. And these skill sets, by the way, aren't just skill sets that CSN believes are necessary for manufacturing. This is MSSC, nationally standardized skill sets. So I don't care where you go in the U.S., if you say you have an MSSC in certification, you're employable. You're employable. And that to us is the foundation. We want to make sure that all our programs, credit and non-credit, are able to provide industry certifications so that industry knows these individuals have the skill sets they need for me to give them the good jobs that are here. But they're foundational. So I see a system where we're going to see this type of equipment available not only here, but at each one of our campuses. I want to make sure that this curriculum is available not only here, but at CCSD, not only here, but at Westside Education and Training Center in the inner city areas, so that throughout this community, we have the distributive system where people are getting those skill sets that they need to get those good paying jobs that are coming and that right now are being unfilled. So this is a tremendous opportunity. This is much more, and that's why I was so excited about coming here. This is much more than the initial step. This is the initial investment. And wherever this has worked across the country, it's been a collaborative effort. It's been the public sector, the educational sector, and the industry sector. And Mr. Baxter, the most important sector is the industry sector. What you're doing today is going to set the precedent, and I think it's going to also provide us the opportunity to talk about the partnership, because I think that we're all in this together. And so I am just so excited, and if you see me I know most of you that have heard me before, I usually read the notes that are prepared for me, not this time. This is a program that's going to change, the game changer for this community. This is going to spur the diversification of the industry here. And hopefully I'll be alive like I was in San Antonio, because I helped write the proposal that brought Toyota to San Antonio. I helped design that infrastructure. And I hope that God gives me that opportunity to do it again here. And it started in San Antonio like it's starting here, with the initial core investment and the initial prototype for the entry-level skills that provide that foundation for everything else we're going to do. So thank you so very much. And Ms. Baxter, we appreciate this so much from the bottom of our hearts.
Thank you, Dr. Zaragoza. Now you can see why he's the college president, right? Very passionate about students and even more so about training and manufacturing. So next I'd like to call up Mr. Baxter. And if Ms. Baxter would also like to say a few words, it's entirely up to you, but we're just so appreciative that you're here. So I'd like to turn the podium over to you.
Hey, it's an honor and pleasure to be here. What an exciting day. I heard mention about the COVID, which changed the world. The reason that we are here today is it was about a year ago. We were in Washington, D.C., before, of course, this crisis, and we met Leo Reddy's son, Neil, and got introduced to the Klein people, and we actually helped us purchase this in December, I believe it was, and then, of course, everything changed. As a company, the K&L Baxter Family Foundation, we started this company in 2005. Then in 2013, we realized, my wife and I, that there was a big need to bring manufacturing back to the United States and to improve the manufacturing that we have here. So we joined the Manufacturing Leadership Council of America, and we ended up meeting Leo Reddy and Neil Reddy. We met Neil in Washington, D.C. last year and decided to start this venture. Because today we have, right now, over 600,000 jobs that we know of that are not filled. I mean, these are people that could go to work tomorrow if they had the skill. And if they were, they don't have to have a college education, it's a skill education. Linda and I had the pleasure of going to the Ford F-150 factory in Dearborn. Amazing. They already had all the computers that you were talking about, that Toyota and now Tesla is also on the leading edge of that. And these skills for these people, these are jobs that pay $60,000, $70,000 a year, and they're going unfilled. So it's a pleasure, again, to be here and to be a part of this great team of people that are making a difference in this country. And so thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Baxter. And I think the other important piece for you to know is that the building that you're in, this is in the heart of the community. And this is just one of many more centers that we will be opening so that more and more residents will have access to this type of training. So you're about to be part of something really big.
We're excited.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to bring up the Executive Director from Workforce Connections, Mr. Jaime Cruz.
Good afternoon, and Mr. and Mrs. Baxter, thank you to you and the foundation. Your investment, this gift is important and timely. It's important for all the reasons you and Federico just mentioned. I went to San Antonio a year ago when Federico came to town, because when he was telling me what we could do, it was hard to envision. But I went there and I saw it, and it is grand. It's what we need here. And so he promised me, he told me it took him 10 years there. So he promised me he would do it in 5 here. So he's going to be around. We're all going to be around to see this tremendous change. But what you did today is plant the seed and model behavior. And so on behalf of Southern Nevada's business industry, I want to thank you, because this is going to allow us to tell the story, because this is what we need. I went to those high schools, those community colleges, and there was tons of machines that Toyota used in their plant. And so I think that's what we need to see here. But I want to tell you why it's timely. Because since Federico came almost now 2 years ago, wow, we have become great friends, but great business partners. We are committed to aligning our resources, the millions of dollars in my system and in his system, to create that ecosystem that he talked about, because we can do more together. But just as importantly, this ecosystem of creating a workforce talent doesn't start when they're 18 in community college. It starts when they're 5 and 6 and we send them to school and kindergarten. And so we have another great partner. His name is Jesus Jara, and he's the superintendent of the Clark County School District, who's here today. And so we've been working hard now for months to align these what in the past have been separate systems to form one ecosystem that is working together to really provide the needs of business. So thank you again for modeling the behavior we need, I think, in our town. This is going to be a great story we can tell, and just proud to have you here in our community, Mr. and Mrs. Baxter. Thank you.
Thank you, Jaime, for your continued support and partnership in all our initiatives. At this time, if we could have the presentation of the gift, if we could have Mr. and Mrs. Baxter come up, and Mr. Cruz and Dr. Zaragoza. Thank you. Before we move to the demonstration, I'd like to introduce a couple of more of our team, our manufacturing training team.
Yes, I do. Absolutely.
I'd like to bring up Mr. Joe Russo, who's going to talk a little bit about the machine, and then we're going to bring up our Director of Manufacturing Programs, Mr. Dennis Lady, and then they're going to provide a demonstration of the machine for us, or a semi-demonstration. So, Joe.
Well, I mean, I have all this written down, and then coming after you two, it's like, well, just what they said. Well, there's a common misconception about manufacturing in the world today, and that especially manufacturing in the U.S. versus China, and losing jobs to China. And people think that we've lost manufacturers to China because of wages, and that may have been true at some point. I don't think it's been true since I've been alive, but that may have been true at some point, but it's not true anymore. I spend my time speaking to education and manufacturers all day. This is my job. My job is to help connect those two people. And The issue is the workforce. Manufacturers will flock to where there is a skilled workforce. They may even go back to California if there's a skilled workforce, and that's saying something. So, but the reason that skill is hard to come by, the reason these skills are difficult is because we have a system where people used to be standing in front of a machine performing a skill. They would do a thing. They would be the hammer, essentially. And technicians manage an entirely different environment in today's day and age. They are carrying out multiple processes using many machines for just one product. So in a single manufacturing cell, to make one thing, to make this mask, there may be literally hundreds of different points of failure in that process that they have to understand every single one of those. And so, and if there's a point of failure and the thing stops, they're losing money that second. And so employers are really in dire need of skilled technicians to be able to understand, assess, and troubleshoot every single one of those points of failure. So as an educational institution, it's very hard to replicate that system, that environment. Manufacturing cells are really expensive. I mean, the cheapest one I've ever seen is about $500,000 and takes up, the wall, the length of wall. That's the smallest one. And then the question becomes, well, what do we teach? What do we teach? Are we teaching food production? Are we teaching auto production? What do we gear ourselves to? And so it really goes down to those foundational skills of what does every single manufacturer need? So thanks to Amatrol and MSSC, they have put together this skill boss. And what this does, it applies to everybody. Tesla, gold mines in Northern Nevada, food producers here in Las Vegas, and eventually Haas here too. And thanks to you and Linda, thank you so much. We have some of this technology right here in Las Vegas. So the skill boss that you produced, that you purchased, they take a bunch of individual skills and combine them into one. 66 individual skills to make this one thing work right here. So when we train, we tend to train on, we're going to train on this thing first, then this thing second, this thing third, and that's nothing wrong with that. That's good. But then eventually we have to take all those things we've learned and put them together into one unit. And that's what this is right here. It's a manufacturing cell that requires 66 different skills to be able to run and maintain for these students that we're training right now. As Dr. Zaragoza said, it's tied to certifications, and that's awesome. I mean, putting a cert on a resume is always better than saying I can do something. But also, what this does is it endorses skills. One thing some schools do, and I'm hoping that CSN will do as well, employers will actually hire the school and take that unit and then assess their incoming recruits. And they'll say, on paper, they say they can do this. Can you just tell me if they really can or not? Can they align a motor? Can they hook up air pressure? Can they actually punch in the buttons correctly on the panel? And the school will actually come in and assess and give them a report and say, yes, they can, or they can kind of. And then, but by the way, they can't do these things, but if you want them, we can train them for those as well. And it just creates an invaluable bond between industry and education and the community at large. So, I can talk about this all day. It's a magic bullet. It's going to save the world. It's a product. It's a good product. There's a lot of work that needs to be done: training, recruiting, teaching, marketing. There's so many different things that we need to do to train our students in today's world. But thanks to you, we have one more piece, and it's a very valuable piece. So just thank you so much, you and your wife.
Thank you, Joe. At this time, I'd like to ask our Director of Manufacturing Programs, Mr. Lady. He's going to give you a brief overview of some of the course modules that will be instructing the students they'll be trained on here at this facility, and then eventually at our Henderson campus and at our Westside Education Training Center. And Mr. Baxter, just for your peace of mind, I want to reassure you that even though we know that technology and this type of training is key to emerging sectors, these students that will be trained on these machines, they are college students. And so that's what makes it so exciting, that they may start out sometimes on the non-credit side. Sometimes we create dual credit in partnership with CCSD. That's what we're doing, that the high school students will also be training on these machines. and we will be developing that curriculum together, and that will lead to pipeline and long-term opportunities in the industry. We also will create models that individuals will be upskilling employees, what we call incumbent worker training, upskilling on the job site. So sometimes they may come to one of our training campuses, or we may go to the job site and help them upskill. So rest assured, if they're not college credit, they eventually will be, but they will be successful in the industry. Mr. Lady? And so for information in the packets, you do have an outline of the certificate program for production tech and machinist. And Mr. Lady is just going to give you a brief overview of what some of those courses look like, but you have the details in your packet.
Today's modern manufacturing operators need to be more than just picking up a part, putting it in the machine. They need to know a lot of the basics of programmable controllers, pneumatics, hydraulics, basic electricity, some advanced electricity, lining up motors and stuff like that. When you have a plant like Toyota that stops for a minute, we had a Toyota plant not far from where I worked at in Indiana, and I believe they told me it was $75,000 a minute that they were down. So you don't want a maintenance person to show up and an operator says, I have no idea what's going on. We are going to teach the operators to understand what's going on so they can help the maintenance people get the machines back up and running. The biggest thrill I ever had was several years ago. I had a young lady come in to the similar program that we're starting here, and she was an unwed mother. The father left home. She was struggling. She got through the program, and I met her a year after she graduated, and she thanked me. She said, I have everything I now want. I made $50,000 my first year on the job. I found a good husband and father for my daughter. We bought a house, and I can now buy my daughter all the clothes and toys that I've always wanted to buy her. And that's what we're doing. We're helping families. We're helping people get good jobs that may be underemployed or unemployed or have difficulty getting employed for various reasons. And we're approaching this as a broad basis to help the community, bring in more manufacturers to the community, and reward the people that go through our training program and set them up to come back and get a degree when they decide later on they want to come back in and get a degree for promotion purposes or their own personal satisfaction. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lady. So in closing, once again, I just want to acknowledge you, Ken and Linda, for your gracious contribution and investment into this community and with CSN. We hope, we invite you, welcome you to become a hands-on partner with us, and welcome you to serve on one of many of our advisory councils for your input and your wisdom in business in this community. We see your passion and commitment, and so we welcome you to now be a active partner. So anytime you want to come visit us. And just to close, as you see, it's a very exciting opportunity, and this is just the beginning of many more things that, as Dr. Zaragoza and Mr. Cruz mentioned, of what CSN in partnership with CCSD, LVGA, Workforce Connections, and the Vegas Chamber, what we're about to do in this community for the long term, short term and long term, to move Las Vegas and Southern Nevada to the next level and put us on the map nationally. And just in closing, some of the information that you heard from several of our panel, just the impact in just an average earning right now in manufacturing is at the entry level is $68,114, and that gross regional product earnings in 2020 was $2.0 billion. The impact it's had in this community, and we're just now emerging, so you can imagine where we're headed. So, having said that, thank you for your attendance, your contribution, your support, and your partnership on behalf of College of Southern Nevada and Dr. Zaragoza and the team. Thank you.